And welcome to Take Control of Your Career. Today, we are joined by Karen Tisdell, LinkedIn profile writer, expert, and trainer. Thank you so much for joining us, Karen.
I'm thrilled to be here, Lauren. I really love what you're doing on LinkedIn. It looks really great. So thrilled to be here with your audience.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Also, we're mostly going to be talking about how to optimize your LinkedIn strategy for job search, but also how to think about LinkedIn when you have a job. So how does LinkedIn fit into your personal brand strategy and all of that and your networking from just a day-to-day perspective? So much to cover, and I know you are the person to go to. So I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. So there's nothing I love more than helping people develop their brand on LinkedIn. So in terms of how they're showing up and the parts of their profile to pay attention to. You said earlier, you're not just for a job search, but also while you're in a job. And I think that's so important. You know, nobody wants to be the person, the friend who only calls when they need something, when they want something from you. You know, it's so important to ensure that you're constantly looking at how you show up on platform and how you develop those relationships. Because, you know, I don't know about you, Lauren, but I find that, you know, the better the friendships and relationships I have around me, the luckier I am in my career and my success, you know. So we are not islands, we are social creatures. So LinkedIn, in terms of developing your career on an ongoing basis, is so important.
Wonderful. So that's a really great framework for us to start from. So we all know that LinkedIn is important in job search. How would you specifically articulate the value of LinkedIn to job seekers?
Just Google your name. Just Google your name. And if you're using Bing, oh my gosh, LinkedIn's going to rank even higher because, you know, LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft. So, or whatever Bing's been rebranded as. So, but just Google your name. Your LinkedIn profile will always come right at the top. Now, why is that important? Because everyone's Googling you. Everyone is Googling you. You don't employ somebody. You don't invest a salary in someone without checking out their footprint. Who are they? You know, do they really know as many people? You know, if they're going into a role which has got a lot of relationships, do they really have a lot of those relationships? What's their background? What do they care about? LinkedIn can tell you so much about somebody. And so, you know, HubSpot have reported that 84% of people look at somebody's LinkedIn profile before making a major investment in a software product. So they did this massive longitudinal study around people who were buying software that was, you know, in excess of $30,000, and 84% were looking at the salesperson's LinkedIn profile. So if we think of ourselves in our job search as a product, people are doing their research. They are so researching, and LinkedIn ranks really highly. So it's that important.
Perfect. Okay, so that's a great framework. What about for people who have a job and want to grow in their career? So you're not necessarily looking to change jobs. How do you suggest people think about leveraging LinkedIn for that?
Absolutely. So again, I think having a great, I mean, I'm a LinkedIn profile writer, so having a great profile is absolutely foundational in terms of if and how people think of you. When I say if people think of you, you know, the average American, fun fact for you, the average American meets 80,000 people. I'm here in Sydney, Australia, but with a bit of an odd voice today, but you know, so 80,000 people in their lifetime, the average American meets 80,000. So we're more connected than our parents and grandparents, and you need to build touch points, and LinkedIn's a great place to do that. It's also really important in terms of managing your stakeholder community. So how do your peers think of you? How does your boss think of you? How do partnering businesses think of you, and how are you showing up? So you want to make sure that you've got a great profile, but you also want to be very proactive in reaching out to people and connecting with them. You want to be really proactive in terms of then reaching out, leaving them a voice message or something similar, saying thanks for accepting my invite to connect, especially if this is a stakeholder that you don't have a lot to do with, or a client or something like that. And you can create content which showcases your thought leadership. So that keeps you in the role. I've been training a sales team here, in LinkedIn, and here on LinkedIn, and they've had to make last year they had to make some of their team redundant, and one of their team members reached out and said to their hiring manager, "Is my job secure?" And they said, "You've got so many relationships on LinkedIn, like you are so well known. Your brand is so well known. You are an asset to us because of that."
Mm. Yeah.
Her job
So,
was protected
yeah.
because of her, because she had developed those relationships. She was visible. She was an advocate for her company. She extended the brand. Smart companies know that a good company is made up of great people. So it's really important in terms of keeping your job and progressing in your career to be that brand ambassador for your company, for your industry, and for your job role.
Right. Well, that's an interesting point because having a wide network is a really valuable strategy, especially if you're in sales, as you grow in your leadership. Uh, what's your perspective on the philosophy of accepting all invitations? Someone reaches out to you, even if you don't know them. What do you recommend people do in terms of accepting or keeping a tight knit group of people that you actually know? What's your thought on that?
Be selective but open minded. So, know what your goal is, what you want to achieve in your career, where you want to go, and connect with people who are either doing what you want to do, who know people that you would want to know, and who are within your community of stakeholders. So, you might be an accountant. You may have no contact with clients, no contact with the supply chain and stakeholder communities. You're an accountant, but your knowledge only goes so far as an accountant. So you connect with other accountants, and then suddenly, your manager walks in the room and goes, "Guess what? We're going to buy a company. We're going to divest a company. We're going to go through something like that." You can reach out to other accountants in your community for knowledge, and you can grow knowledge together. It's a really great place to build those relationships, but it's useless if you're just connecting with everybody. I have a thing on my profile saying that I don't work globally. I don't connect globally. Typically, I only connect globally when I'm invited on a podcast like this, which I'm very excited about, or with other LinkedIn trainers, people I can learn and grow from, because I don't work globally. Time differences don't typically work for me. So open-minded but selective. Know where your boundaries are, and having them divided by region is a really great way of making sure that you're not wasting your time on LinkedIn. You might find somebody who's really fascinating and really interesting, and they're on the other side of the world, yet you're not actually talking to your neighbors. So think about, this is not a place to make friends. This is a place to build choose your cheerleaders. Choose your cheerleaders. We all need people who can be our sponsors, people who can help us to grow our knowledge and benefit our career, and we can benefit theirs. It's a two-way street. If you can't benefit them and they can't benefit you, or you don't work globally, then there's no point in connecting with them. Do you
Sure.
think that sounds
Okay.
a bit harsh? What do you reckon?
No, I think you have a great point in terms of being very strategic about your framework. So, for your example, is your framework excludes the global factor. For people who work in a more global environment, then that might be something that's important to have, but there are other guardrails that you exclude because, hey, I don't want to be bombarded by salespeople all the time, or I am focused in, who can be really strategic from a relationship standpoint within my company. And so anybody from my company, I'll accept, or anyone from my target company, I'll accept. There's a handful of different ways that you can look at it, and everyone's going to have different guardrails or as they set their expectations.
Guardrails. I love it. You're about to ask me a question. I cut you ear short there. Sorry, Lauren.
Not a problem. So yeah, but it was a great opportunity to refine that. So, what would you say are some of the most basic things that every job seeker should be doing on LinkedIn?
make sure that you have a profile photo. That sounds so obvious, but make sure you have
It
a profile
does.
photo. And when you have a profile photo, make sure it is a headshot photo. So, we trust people when we can look in their eyes. So don't have a photo where you're wearing sunglasses or you're so far from the camera that I can't see in your eyes, because eyes build trust. So crop it really close. Have a background banner. So behind your profile, yours is lovely, Lauren. I really love your background banner. So behind your profile, have an image that epitomizes what it is you do. So, if you're an accountant, an engineer, a lawyer, think about what does that look like, and have an image that typifies that. Don't have a picture of a beach. That just tells me you want to be on holiday. Make sure you optimize your headline. So that's a bit that sits underneath your name. Make sure that you have keywords in there that talk to where you're going in your career. So often people get stuck in their career because they're talking to who they were, not to who they want to be, and not where they're going. So think about where you're going. Look at those job adverts and put those keywords or titles in your headline. You've got 220 characters, use them. Your about section, so also known as your summary section, it's really important to, above the fold, so before you click see more, make sure that those first couple of sentences start with a question, or they start with something that your audience, so decide, who are your stakeholder community? Who do you most want to impress? Is it your current boss? Is it a future boss? Is it that you want to attract more peers that you can grow knowledge with? And talk to that. Don't start off with, I am a senior leader with 25 years experience, because you just look like everybody else. So don't start off with start off with them, and then talk about them.
Yeah. Do you have a hook, something that's going to connect with what your reader or what your target audience is going to be looking for?
A hook, absolutely. And in your experience section, you should have a logo. So scroll down to your experience section and make sure that you've connected correctly to the company page. So just type in the company name really slowly so that it'll bring up a logo of your company, and make sure that you're connected to that. Now, if you're a small business owner and you don't have a company page, go to the work tab, scroll all the way to the bottom and create a company page. Just makes your business look so much more it gives a color, looks so much more credible. People know that this is not a stopgap. And don't just have a few lines in there, like give some detail around the value that you bring, why you do that role, what you enjoy about your position. People want to see more than just a paragraph. They want to see why you do what you do. So think about Simon Sinek, the talk to the why you do what you do. Capture that in there. Capture your values.
I think that is such a great perspective. Rather than having a repeat of your resume or, just kind of general descriptions of what you do, having your why in your profile section there is a great concept that I have not heard about before, but that I'm gonna take that with me as a great learning out of our conversation today.
So important. Why did you choose to do what you do over something else? And I get so many of my clients say, I don't know, I just fell into it. I'm like, nobody just falls into a role. You've got to have a knack. There's something that drove you. Why did you become an engineer and not a lawyer? Why did you become this and not that? So talk to your why, because people like people who are really enthusiastic about what they do. This is what you want to create, that impression in your profile that everything you've ever done was leading up to that moment. So make sure you do add all of your previous roles, scroll all the way to the bottom, and make sure that you add your skills in there as well. So make sure that you look at your job adverts again, be very aspirational. What is it you want to do? Look at all of those job adverts, look at all of the skills, and make sure that you add them into the skills section, because that will increase your relevancy ranking. So relevancy ranking is when somebody's searching for somebody with your skills, your profile will rise to the top if you've got those right keywords all through your profile.
Perfect. Great advice. And I want to circle back around one more time to what you suggested about that picture for the company. A lot of times, if you're consulting in between jobs, to your point, a lot of people will just, use the basic LinkedIn grayscale kind of image, but it's very, very easy to put a different image, even if it's not an official logo or something. You can just pull something together really simply and attach it and make a company page. And all of a sudden your stopgap consulting gig is a legit looking company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks so great. You can create something in Canva with your logo in it or some words in it that talk to what it is you do. You can search on Unsplash for a free, royalty-free image that will showcase what it is you do. If you're working for a big company and they haven't provided you with a background banner that has your logo, if they've missed that key branding opportunity, take a picture of the reception desk where you've got the name of the company there.
Great idea. Okay, so all of us are aware that there's lots of posting of content on LinkedIn. For your average job seeker, what would you suggest in terms of how often you post content?
For your average job seeker, I would say that posting content is not as important as direct messages.
Okay.
A lot of people think they need to contribute to the noise and they need to create content. And content's great. It showcases thought leadership. So I would say it's fantastic to create a few pieces of content, a couple of times a month would be great. An article, a blog every 2 months would be better. Hardly anybody's going to read it. But when somebody's thinking about really investing in you, offering you a new role, offering you a promotion, if somebody's wanting somebody who can come and speak at an event, somebody who can be a real thought leader, they're not looking at short posts. They're looking for an article that really dives deep into the knowledge that you have. So think about writing an article that talks to, or a video, creating a video that talks to, what you wish you'd known when you were starting your career, and just share a whole load of knowledge. Put it out there as a gift to, as if you were gifting your younger self. And that will really showcase you as somebody who is a giver, as somebody who has a lot of knowledge. And then you go to add, you save it to your featured section on your LinkedIn profile, so that whenever somebody comes to your profile, they can see your latest article or your latest video. So if you can't see the featured section, just go to add new profile section and click on featured. So I would say, don't worry about contributing to the noise as much. Instead, have an article or a video every couple of months that really showcases what you know and how you know it, your thoughts on the emerging trends in the industry, and spend more time deepening those relationships. In my experience, everybody's so caught up in this idea of posting, and they're not nurturing relationships. So try not to, unless you're terribly time poor or you know the person very well, try not to just go connect on LinkedIn. Instead, go connect, add note on desktop. On mobile, you need to click on more, add note, and personalize an invitation to connect. When somebody accepts your invitation to connect on mobile, click on search for their name. Once you've connected with them, click on message. At the bottom right-hand side, you've got a microphone. Click on that microphone and it will come up with a voice recording, and you can record a voice message, which could be something like, "Hi, thanks for accepting my invitation to connect. Really appreciate it. Look, I can see we're doing really similar work here. It looks really interesting. Let me know if you're up for a chat. I'm a real sharer, enjoy growing knowledge together, but really just wanted to reach out and say thanks for the invite." I've had clients who've secured job offers from doing that.
Great piece of feedback. And it just goes to show, doing something that is different is going to set you apart naturally, because nobody else is sending voicemails really through LinkedIn. And I've seen it. I personally have never done it, but I'm going to start doing it now after hearing that story. And the other thing that I'm hearing from you is just how important it is to nurture the relationship aspect. I agree with you. There's so much noise about how important it is to post, to get your perspective out there, to get your thought leadership out there, but on the same page, having those intimate relationships, whether it's via direct message or even making sure that people that you're targeting, if you're looking at a job at their company and they could be an entree, from a networking perspective, like how can you let them know that you're paying attention to them and what they're posting, and that you're listening and you're engaging in an authentic way, not just
You said,
like.
absolutely. I love what you said there. I think it's so important. And you said something that I completely failed to say, which is the importance of every day scrolling through the news feed. And I encourage my clients to always do this on a mobile, because if you sit down and do it at desktop, you can feel like you've been very productive. You can lose 2 hours of your day and just go, oh my gosh, what have I actually done? Scroll through your news feed, like and comment on as many posts as you can in your news feed. So just literally do it while the kettle's boiling, while your coffee machine's making a coffee, while your egg's frying, while your toast is cooking. Just a few minutes every day will make a massive difference. And I would say that giving is more important than I must contribute to noise. It really is our relationships that make such a difference. We hear so much about you must be posting, but we hear that a lot from social media trainers and copywriters. It keeps them employed. It's great. But is it going to get you a job? Yeah, maybe not so much, so it's about relationships that's so important.
Yeah, and the one caveat that I might make there is it depends on what the role is, and if you're really working on building a personal brand as an innovator in your industry, for example, or something along those lines. Like everything has a time and a place. So, there are certain situations where that regular posting is where you're demonstrating thought leadership is very important. But for most job seekers, I hear you. It is really about focusing 80% of your time on those personal messages and interacting with people who can positively impact your search.
Yes, create content if you've got time to do it. But in terms of your list of priorities, put that as one of the last ones. And think instead of making lots of short posts, just a couple of big pieces that you can pin to your profile. Like I said, that video, and I've just remembered there's a website called getacopywriter.com, and you can write a really rough blog and then go on to getacopywriter.com and load this up, and they'll create a beautiful blog for you.
Wow.
And then you've got something that really, and it's really inexpensive, wonderful US company, I think. And, and it's beautifully written, and it really showcases your thought leadership.
Great referral. I'm going to check that out too. So really fantastic ideas. The last thing I want to ask you, because it's still relatively new, is the whole concept of creator mode and having stories and various things like that. That's again relatively new to LinkedIn. So what's your perspective on that in the job search, or for your average not average career person, but for your person who is focused on building their brand within an organization?
Creator mode can be really damaging, and it can be really damaging because it switches off the capacity for people to reach out and easily connect with you. So it's great for LinkedIn, and it's great for influencers who are chasing after big numbers of followers and who are already very proactive in reaching out and connecting to people and building those relationships one-on-one. So if you're very proactive in constantly looking through your diary and constantly, your journal, calendar, and connecting to people. Here in Australia, we call a diary our calendar. And I think in the US, a diary is something you write your personal thoughts in, right? So hence I was just translating in my head going, that would be weird to you guys. So sorry. But if you're very proactive in reaching out to people, then you can have creator mode on. But if you're not hugely proactive, by switching it off, it means that you collect lots of followers, but you're not connecting first level connections. So that means that you feel like you're achieving a lot and you're getting sucked into this whole, oh, look at me, I'm doing really well. LinkedIn's so thrilled with me. It keeps on telling me how well I'm doing. It's great for LinkedIn. It's not great for you, because when you have more first level connections, people you're actually connected to, then you can direct message them. You can't direct message followers without sending an email or something like that. So if you're connected to somebody, you have a closer affiliation, and that serves your career in all sorts of ways. It serves your career because if somebody's looking at employing you or promoting you, maybe you work for a really large company, they're like, oh my gosh, everybody knows Susan. Why don't I know Susan? So when you've got a large number of network, then your second network becomes so much more powerful. And that's often where the jobs are, because sometimes our first network will go, oh, I don't know if I really want to back Susan. Like, if that is that nepotism, or, so your second network, people will feel like everybody's connected to you.
Yeah, that's a great point. I really encourage people to leverage those second level connections on LinkedIn. That is the largest opportunity in your job search, is how can you leverage your first level connections to connect you with the people who are working at the companies that you want to work at, for example.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Absolutely. So you've got a job interview, you look through your network, you're being interviewed by Jane. You look through your network and you're like, who do I know? Who knows Jane? Oh my gosh, Bob knows Jane. Well, I don't know Bob really well. I'm only kind of connected to him and sent him a message. I don't really know him. You reach out, hey, Bob, we're connected here on LinkedIn, never really spoken, but I've got a job interview with Jane, and I wondered if you had a few minutes to just give me an insight on her character. So if you've got creator mode switched on, then you're turning away connections. People can't easily reach out to you. So that can be really damaging. Now, on that, there's another job seeking tip that I think is really important, and I heard somebody mentioned this recently, a LinkedIn trainer called Mark Williams, and he was talking about it for sales teams, but I thought, oh my gosh, the same thing could be applied to job seekers. When you are doing your research for a job interview, have a look at somebody's profile, really have a look at it. Did they leave a company sort of a few years after you did? And maybe you might know people in common. Where did they do university? What are they posting about? What are they commenting on? Scroll all the way to the bottom. Don't just look at the recommendations they've got, but look at the recommendations they've given. Very senior people have often given a lot of recommendations. And that's been part of their job, is to give recommendations, like references kind of. When you have a look at people's recommendations, you can see what people value. So they might have written 5 recommendations, and 3 or 4 of those recommendations mention something about the person being very honest. Okay, you now know what they value. So in an interview, you want to drop something about one of your core values being honesty.
Great.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you can really use LinkedIn not just to be found, but to find and to research.
And to listen, whether you're actually listening with your ears or just paying attention closely to what people are, to understand people better through what either they're posting, what they're sharing in terms of their engagement, as well as what they put on the recommendations, which is another thing that I would not have thought of. So really great insights here, Karen. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us. So many great new tidbits for LinkedIn. That's why I reached out to you all the way around the world and am excited to have your insights shared with us on Take Control of Your Career. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate it. So, and all the best to everybody in your career journey.
Thank you.